Hello, my name is Noel Hasso. I am a senior at University High School, and today I am here with my best friend Jacob, and we are here to congratulate him on his Ultimate Grit Award. So thank you and congratulations, Jacob.
Thanks, man.
So I have a few questions that I would like to ask you about your experience with cancer so far and how the treatments have been and how it's impacted you as a student. So I want to start off by asking, can you share a little bit about how your journey with cancer has been so far?
I've been pretty grateful so far. I mean, it was probably the hardest part was just like the beginning of it. It was difficult to like process or just really fathom what my future was going to be about. But I have a really supportive family. I'm really lucky to have like two amazing parents, brothers, who like pretty much didn't really give up when I did. And so, like, just throughout all of this, it's mainly been just a lot of support from both my family and pretty much the school as well. Just friends from within school, like you, the staff, like Miss Sherding, Miss Landis, and all of my amazing teachers. And so, honestly, it hasn't been as harsh as what I thought it would be, especially because it's like a liver cancer as well. Like, it's something that wasn't gonna be as effective as I thought.
So can you explain a little bit more about how you felt in that moment when you were diagnosed? Because I remember when you told us, well, you texted us, and you told us that you were going into the hospital for something. You thought it was just like a small tumor or something, but we didn't know what it was at that moment. But when you were diagnosed, I know we were shocked, but can you explain a little bit more about how you felt?
It was probably the worst day of my life, really.
Yeah.
Because, in all honesty, like, I almost broke down when I saw my mother crying. Like, that was like the biggest heartbreak in my life. Mainly because, like, I tried to shake it off, I tried to laugh it off. Especially when my older brother came in, like, we tried joking around, but, like, I tried to be I was mainly just realistic because it was something that I thought, like, I would never get back to my normal life. And that was pretty much it. It was just a terrible day and night for me because I had to start it just from the very morning when I went to find like an ultrasound, and then back to going to Phoenix Children's to finally get the actual news about it.
Yeah, and I know it's been challenging for you. You told us, like, you kind of kept us updated on every process, like every step of the way. You kept us updated, but I know you've been struggling with it. It's been like it's probably been the biggest thing you've ever faced, the biggest obstacle. But yeah, you kept us updated. You told us how you felt, and even when you went to school, like, you didn't show that that you were really struggling. You kind of kept that positivity, which I know I mentioned to you before. Like, you kept that positive outlook, and you don't want to admit it, but it's true. So that's, again, like, something very selfless that I think I wanted to point out to you.
That means
But going back to what you were talking about with your treatments, what do you think has been like one of the most challenging or the most challenging treatment that you've had so far, and why?
I honestly want to say, like, none of my treatments have really been challenging because I only had to really, like, they only affected me for only about a week, really. And it wasn't that bad. Like, the worst thing about my treatments were, like, I couldn't drink cold beverages. That's it for about a week. It just hurt my throat that bad. But I guess, like, there is this one treatment that I've been recently getting, which was like a radiation treatment that they had to just like go through my leg and like try and kill the tumor. And like I'm getting a third one like this upcoming week. And so like the first time I had it, like it put me out of school for about 2 weeks. Mainly because like I stressed my vein and it just immediately went to like a pain level of like a 7 or 8. So that was mainly it. But that was the worst. That was the worst thing, really. But in my mind, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, you have like a very positive outlook, and I don't know how you do it, honestly. I wouldn't be able to do that, but how do you manage to stay like so positive and so motivated even going through these treatments?
I don't really know how. It's like, I try to like, throughout my life, my parents have always been like, trying to raise me like the best as possible. And so like, I've always been grateful for what they've done, and I try to be like the best son that I could be. And I don't really understand how, but I do understand why I mainly do this. It's just like, I just hate being like in a terrible mood or an upsetting mood, because it just ruins my day. So like when I try to stay positive, like I'm not letting anyone down. I'm not letting myself down. And so that's the best thing you could do in any situation, is just trying to have a positive outlook. Because no matter how bad it gets, like there's always a way to get around it and just have a better outcome.
Yeah, it's even though like it's sometimes easy to say that like on paper, like, oh, it's easy to have just a positive outlook to make the better of the situation, but actually doing that and actually having that positive outlook is really hard. So that's something that I want to recognize about you too. Like you managed to keep the people around you less worried. Even though they're already worried, you managed to keep us less worried because you give us that sense of security that you're going to be okay.
I mean, it's mainly because of the environment. Like, you of all people, like, I've always probably brought out the best of me. Like, I'm always just happy to be outside of school or in school with you, like you and a lot of my other friends. So I can never really be down.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say to that, but I think we mutually help each other out. But in this journey specifically, it's been really hard, but we've managed to help each other out. But again, like, I wanted to ask, so we're both UH students, we know how hard it is, how challenging it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of workload, a lot of stuff to do, but how do you manage to keep your workflow going? How do you manage to keep going as a UH student, even though you're going through treatments?
Well, sometimes I try to be as proactive as possible, and this is difficult because I usually work best when I'm under pressure, which is terrible, but I also, yeah.
I feel the same.
Like, those days when I'm out, or like every other Wednesday, or when I have to get like a surgery or something, I usually try to, even when I'm like feeling really terrible, my body can't really take it, I try to do something, or a little bit at least, or study. But the biggest thing was mainly just the school. Like actually asking for help, because that's something I've always struggled with. Like, try to do stuff independently, but like this year I found out like I can ask help from my parents, I can ask help from my brothers, I can ask help from my teachers. And like, it's amazing, like the connection I made with like the staff, with my teachers, like Ms. Burns, Mr. Yamada, Mr. Fracker, Mr. Haynes. Like, they're all, I've seen like how wonderful of people they are. And like, I even gotten to know the front office a lot more. Miss Sherding, Miss Huerta, Miss Seda. Like, they all understand what I'm going through, even if they don't see it. And like, it's because I don't really see it myself as well. Like, I try to put that in the back of my mind. And like, these, I guess, I hate when I ask for extensions, but like, when they do, they're really helpful. And so I always come to the teachers, can I just get like this amount of days to get it done? Or if they give me an extra, I'll try and get it done by this day. And it's what has helped me like to continue going throughout this journey. And so like, my grades would be like a lot worse if I didn't have this amazing like group of people, or just teachers in general that understand what is happening. So
Yeah.
I really thank them a lot.
I mean, it's also like really hard to be vulnerable, specifically with you, because you've always told me like you don't like to be kind of a burden on other people. So you like to try to figure things out your own way, but having to rely on other people, which is totally fine. But that kind of was a challenge in itself, having to figure out how to ask people for help. But I'm glad that you did that, because if you wouldn't, then I don't know if you would still be a UH student. But
I would be a totally different person.
yeah. But is there anything else that you feel like any other like activities or any hobbies that you do like outside of school? Because I know like you like to play basketball and you like to coach your brother's football team. But like, can you explain more about like how does that help you with your journey?
I mean, like sports have always been a big part of my life ever since I was like 7. So like whenever I play basketball or football with my brothers, like it takes my mind off of like everything pretty much, because all I'm worried about is just having fun with them.
Yeah.
And just competing. I mean, I haven't done it as much, which I hate. So like, but recently I have coached my brother's team, like you mentioned, which at first I did it just for volunteering hours. But like as I started to grow, so did these kids that I were coaching. I just became closer with them, and like they, even though like I don't coach as much or coach at all, like they still call me coach, which like always I feel ashamed, but I also feel happy because like even though I no longer do it, which I hope to do it again soon, it makes me, it lets me know that like I've had an impact on these people, and like it always, again, it takes my mind off of just whatever's going on in my life that's like trying to hold me down.
Yeah.
And so like each and every week that I spent time with them, like it was, I mean, it took up my time, but it was time that was worth it, because like it helped like with my resume, but also just like as a person in general, because I got to see what I did to actually help my community, and that just means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you also mentioned how like coaching takes up some of your time. Like, how do you manage your time and figure out what's valuable? Like, how do you have that time management? Like, what do you do to figure out what's valuable to you and what you should do with your time?
It just depends on like, it's like a day by day process. I just, one day sometimes I'm just too tired, depending on like treatments, or depending on like just how bad of a day it was or how good of a day it was. And so like the bigger assignments I try to get started, or no, actually it's the opposite. I try to get the easier assignments knocked out, because that like creates motivation for me. And so like when I try to get those done, like it allows me to keep on going to work on the next thing, the next like goal, and that's when I start to like really get ahead of what I'm trying to do. And so that's what I try to do all the time, just achieve these small goals and finally get to this like bigger picture or bigger assignment. I think that's just like a life lesson in itself.
Yeah. No, I also agree with what you said about trying to knock out the smaller ones before the bigger ones. Yeah. But so kind of looking more into what you told me about like what you wanted to do after high school in your future. Like I know before when we first met as freshmen, you told me like, oh, I kind of want to be like a civil engineer. Like I want to design and build stuff, right? But I remember you told me recently that like your view has changed and you kind of want to pursue something more medical, or something else that could help other people. So could you explain like how has your view shifted?
If I'm being really realistic, I probably can't go into medical like as deep as I could, because like it's already senior year and it's hard to like try and do a big change as that. But like my perspective has changed. Like through this entire process, like I realized like how amazing like these people are in like the medical field. Like I pretty much have this like superstar team of like surgeons and like nurses and doctors that like really want to see me succeed and keep on pushing.
Yeah.
And like that's really like, it's like from the bottom of my heart, like I genuinely wish I could like make an impact or like be a part of that group when I get older, and I'll probably try to, even if I want to major in like in some sort of field of engineering. I'll probably just go and minor in that. But like no matter from what position you are, like from a nurse or to like a desk job to probably being like the surgeon that decides on like or has the chance to save a life, like all of them have like changed like how I view them and just like life in general, really, because I probably wouldn't be as far as I am without these people that have like taken interest and care into my life. And so I really hope to somewhere in my future just have a chance to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And it really does mean a lot to me.
I mean, again, that's a big reason as to why you're being congratulated for this award, because even though you're going through this like tough situation, you're still trying to figure out how to be selfless and try to give back to the community from what they gave to you. So I find that, I mean, I don't know how you do it, but I find that really admirable too. But I guess one last kind of question to kind of, I don't know, wrap this up. So we are wearing our grit shirts, right? But we got these, I mean, I got mine a while back. I don't know why you got yours. But what or how exactly would you define what grit is, or at least what it is to you?
To me, grit is just like when you start something or when you're going through something, like you just don't quit at all. That's what my dad has taught me. Every single time I've completed like, or I started a sport or an activity or like UH, like this was my choice. Like whatever I do, that's gonna have a consequence, whether positive or negative. But in the end, I have to finish regardless, because like grit is really just all about, it's really about just facing adversity and overcoming it. That's like the general definition of it.
Yeah.
Or what we see as UH. But like grit is just like, for me personally, like pretty much how you think you view me is like always maintaining like a positive attitude. Just like always looking for something different, always looking for something better, regardless of like the situation you're in. And that's what I guess I've been doing this whole time. Just having like, I guess why I got this award, like having grit like throughout the entirety of it. And just, I always try to keep pushing forward. I try to think it's not big of an issue, and I understand it's a big issue, but I always want to see the better side of things. And that's what I think what grit means to me in all reality. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you show grit not just because you're getting through it, it's also because you're getting through it with that positive mindset. So you're not just, you're not surviving, but you're kind of,
Thriving.
Yeah, thriving in a way. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. But do you have anything else you want to mention about your journey, or?
Like whoever's watching, just please just try and put yourself first. Like, and if you're going through a tough time, and like actually like pretty much look for help, because there are people that care about you. There are people that want to see you succeed, and I think that's something big that as a human being is like admirable, because we're all here to help each other, especially here at UH. And just one other thing, like always like constantly go check try and get ahead of like whatever possible thing could happen. Because I was barely lucky enough to really catch this, and really, if it weren't for my parents, it probably would have been a lot worse, a different scenario. And so I really hope like no one else has to go through something like this, and just really just be aware of like whatever could come in life. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, well, I just want to congratulate you one more time for being the ultimate Grit Award winner.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you for answering those questions and for talking with me.
I don't feel I deserve it, but...
No, you do. I think you deserve it. You're probably the only person I know who would deserve this award. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for watching.